Hey, hey, hey! The hyper heroes are here! I see everybody, I see all the boys in the back over there laughing. What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is week 5.5 of Camp Social Distance, and we're still here. We're alive. We've made it, thank God, because holy crap, it's been interesting. Very, very pumped to be here today. Very excited to have the boys here as well. But before I bring them on, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping for anybody who maybe is new to what we've been doing here at Hyper RPG. Like I said, this is week 5 of Camp Social Distance. We've been doing a whole bunch of stuff for the last 5 weeks. If you've missed out, today is the perfect day to come and hang out with us and see everything that we're doing. We just got done, Lucas just got done streaming, doing a fun little AMA with the audience, which we started at 11 a.m. Now we're doing Hyper Heroes. After this, we're going to be going upstairs to our studio where we're going to be doing some cooking stuff. Malika will be cooking some fun stuff. And then at 4 o'clock, we're playing a board game. I wish I would have written down Machine of Death is the name of the board game. And then at 6 p.m., it's Criterion Week here, and we're doing a movie called Diamantino, which looks really crazy, and it's Zach's pick, so I can't wait to watch this. I think it's going to be a perfect way to sort of wrap out the weekend. And you are the ones who are deciding what movie we are watching. For next week's choices, on Monday, we are watching Parasite. That's on Hulu. On Tuesday, we're watching Miracle. That's on Netflix. Wednesday, Amélie, which I believe is on Amazon Prime. Thursday, we're watching Swiss Army Man, which is also on Netflix. And today, I asked the boys to give me some movie choices. Your choices for this week are Lethal Weapon, Sin City, and I forgot the name of the last movie. I Lost My Body, which is on Netflix, which actually looks amazing. It's an animated film. It looks really, really beautiful. Zach said he had seen it, and he said he was a really, really big fan of that. If you want to find out how you can vote for the movie that you want us to watch next Friday, you can go to oneshot.straylogic.com, and every 500 earned, we're going to be giving away a seat at my clubhouse. We'll be doing that this Saturday. We're gonna work out a time. I'm gonna work out a time with everybody who gets picked to join the clubhouse. We've got at least 7 or 8 members in there now. So anything that you guys want to do, whether it's a watch along, or if you guys want, some sort of a tutorial thing on visual effects or Photoshop or whatever. I love the fact that we get to do this and that we get to really engage with the community in a more one-on-one type of session where we can hang out and do something that you guys are really jazzed about. So if you guys want to check that out, you can go to oneshot.straylogic.com. You can see how you can support Hyper RPG and the movies that you want to watch and some of the cooking stuff that Malika has planned for next week as well. And then every time we hit our goal, we're giving away Steam codes, movie codes. We've got a huge library of codes for both movies and games, so that's a lot of fun as well. I do have the chat room open too, so if we see any questions pop into the chat room, we will answer them towards the end of the show as well. But I think it is time to bring in the Avengers. Hey, hey. What's up, everybody?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
It went from like very high to hey,
buddy.
just arm on the shoulder. Hey,
you came in with that crazy. I didn't hear the countdown, so you came in with that crazy energy of screaming.
Hey, that's Babu Frick. How dare you?
That's true. That's true.
Hey, man, nice background, by the way.
Thanks, buddy. That's a fancy background that Adam created.
Created? I don't know about that, but I did render it for you.
Okay, good. You rendered it. But yeah, that's the Camp Social Distance.
Yeah, that's right. And you got Hector back there with his fun collection.
This is a background I created over years and years and maybe thousands of dollars worth of collectibles that I've been using for DC Daily at home.
Yeah.
I got a nice little comic book propped up there. This is Harley Quinn by a Mr. Sam Humphries, which is pretty great. So,
get that piece of trash out of there.
Who's that guy?
Take that and throw it away.
Hector, why don't you
That
introduce?
garbage sit next to the Hall of Justice.
Hector,
Unbelievable.
do the honors of introducing our guest.
well, I'm so stoked because our guest today is, as I was saying earlier, in my heart and in my brain, is 50% not only a phenomenal comic book writer and such a talented guy who's worked on so many of your favorite characters, and he's currently in the middle of a Harley Quinn run that is going to be one of the best Harley Quinn runs, period. Mr. Sam Humphries. He's also one of my co-hosts on DC Daily, and he is 50% of my heart and brain. Such a wonderful host and such a great pal and such a great collaborator that we get to do the fun stuff we get to do over on DC Daily and geek out and talk about all the stuff we love So Sam, and he's doing something so special and so cool for the
Yeah.
comic book industry, and we get to talk to him about it today. And I am thrilled. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled.
Rob, thank you so much. I love you, man. I
I
appreciate
love you too.
that. I know. This is like it's so great because Hector and I used to hang out like all day, every Wednesday, every week without fail. We get to hang out and do like cool stuff on camera with like a lot of energy, and then also
Mhm.
we're not on camera. We kind of like sit in like the break room and be like, "Man, you remember that time when Batman kicked the Joker in the face? That was cool.
Yeah, I
That was
remember.
cool.
Yeah.
So I would.
All y'all, thank you for having me.
Oh
Adam and
yeah.
Augusty, it's great to meet you all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
man. Thank
too.
you so much for being here. I'm
My
glad that
pleasure.
I saw
Thank you.
your tweet because I know you were tweeting
This was
asking.
great. This was like
Yeah.
so perfect.
I
Thank
know you were
you.
asking YouTubers if they were, putting up any stuff in the next couple days. So I thought, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to ask Sam if he just wants to come on and talk about, what
Heck
what you were
yeah.
doing and all that sort of stuff. I would love to
Absolutely.
know though from you and from the other guys, how has this quarantine been for you guys so far? The stay-at-home order, and what's it been like adapting your work life to being at home all the time?
Boy. Yeah, you want me to start?
Go for it,
Yeah,
Sam.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's great.
honorary.
Everybody's heard us
Well,
talk. You talk.
well, the headline is I'm safe and I'm healthy and I'm at home and I'm staying home and I'm hanging out with my cat Bean, who Hector knows. He's not nearby, but me and Bean are riding out the storm, and we got everything we need here. So that is good. Also, the state of the world is bad, and so I'm also riding that roller coaster of anxiety and depression, and some days are better than others, and it's definitely a paradox to be like, man, I got like a really great apartment that I love and I feel good staying in all the time, and I've got food and supplies, and I'm extremely lucky in that way, but also I'm extremely terrified for what's going on. So it's a little both. And then also I'm a very lucky bastard because I still have both of my jobs. And a lot of people don't have one job.
Yeah.
Even if you just narrow the focus just to people like my peers, either as comic book creators or people who host or do videos or live streams or whatever, like most of my peers cannot say that they even have one job. So, but I'm still riding Harley, and every week, Hector and I, we're still with the whole crew. We're banging out DC Daily from home, and all that stuff is just a wonderful thing to have, not just for security, but for therapeutically, emotionally, to be able to work on that kind of stuff, and then being able to work on this Creators for Comics thing, which we'll talk about later, has also been very, very therapeutic in this crazy time. So
Yeah.
I know you.
that's my short answer right there.
I know you and Hector have also been doing DC Daily remotely. How has
Yes.
that been challenging? Because I think like the environment that you guys have, obviously, like it's a very creative environment, and you guys are I think we're all just so used to working with each other, next to each other all the time.
Yeah.
Does it create a different sort of energy when you have to remote in and you have to do everything like through a headset and a microphone as opposed to being there in person?
Yeah, it definitely does. It's not the same, but we're really blessed in two ways. One is we have an incredible production team, and at the drop of a hat, as so many have, they were like, "This is the world we got to deal with. Well, the show must go on," and they've cobbled together out of nothing in a complete remote production platform that we did not have any of these pieces in place whatsoever. We're completely studio based. We weren't even a streaming show, so to do all this over the internet. We have such a crack team. They've worked their asses off. It's been incredible. We're also blessed that we just shot our 400th episode, which is incredible.
Wow.
High five, Hector. High five.
High five.
Nice,
So
dude.
like
Digi-5.
we have a great cast and a great crew, and we've been working on 400 episodes together. So our energy is really good, and the vibe is so solid that I feel like we've had like just a real easy transition into working shooting from home. And also it's just like we're just so excited to see each other, like we're so excited to see each other and be like, oh yes, like this is the stuff that I love, this stuff that I love to do.
Yeah, we all miss our friends, and I also again want to highlight like our editors, because they're able to piece together what we are doing when we're shooting stuff and capturing some of that energy of, like you're saying, Adam, it is different from when we would be together on a couch, when we're in person with one another. when we do stuff over the internet, whether it's like we're talking on Zoom or what, however we're communicating, that's a different rhythm, a different pace. Like, we're waiting for people to talk and then be done talking. And then, not that we necessarily spoke on top of each other before, but there's still a different exercise in, and how we're communicating with one another, especially when we're encouraged to like, hey, we're going to geek out about this movie. We're going to geek out about this comic. Like, and yet, I think that a lot of people that have shifted their work to this or working from home have these little moments when they're talking to their friends over the internet, where it's these little sparks of, I miss this. This feels like it used to feel when we would hang out. And I think we're really trying to chase those moments. And luckily we get them. And again, kudos to the editors who will put those together after the fact and really make it feel like it flows. And sometimes I forget. I'm like, I've been watching some of our stuff, the DC Daily from Home things, and I'm like, I'm forgetting that we're not sitting on a couch next to one another, because of how well that's kind of playing together. But yeah, man, I'm glad that over on the hyper side, like that we're back and we're doing hyper heroes again, because I miss these fools, and it's gonna be great to everything that Sam was describing, where we're like, we are happy when we see each other. That's the best part of our weeks, I think, is that when we get to do stuff like that.
I felt that vibe already even before we started the show. Just when I popped on the Zoom, I was like,
I think there's been this like we talked about it last time. There's a huge misconception that like we all three of us live together, and that's not the case. It never has been the case. It would make things way easier if we did, but
absolutely.
I think for us here, it's been great that having a live workspace where we can still run all the stuff that we've been doing is great for us, because it really helps pass the time quickly, and it allows us to still engage with our audience, which is great. Our favorite thing that we've been doing has been the movie watch-alongs, because so many people have not seen a lot of the movies that we've been watching, and to watch movies with people and see the reaction in the chat room when big moments happen that are coming, or things that like you didn't even know were coming, has been really rewarding and really, really fun. So
it's really great. I feel like, Augustine, your life has probably changed as much as mine. Like Sam had the 50%, he's already a writer, so he's already, working from home, but then we're doing the DC stuff from home. But you went full on 180 flip to what has it been like working from home?
So it's been real interesting. I work at a very kind of old schooly kind of place. So I work at a School of Dentistry, and I'm educational technologist there. So I'm helping the faculty turn all their classes from in classroom to remote learning.
Yeah.
Whoa,
so
dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's been really crazy. Previously, my job, like the faculty weren't necessarily attaching onto the technology, but now they have to. And now all of a sudden I became like the go-to guy. So I went from having a decently normal job to like tons and tons and tons of work overnight. And it just happened. And so that's why we've kind of been like slowing down on videos and stuff, just because things have really, really flipped around for all of us.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of adjusting. Like I'm working from home, and they previously said I couldn't do my job from home, and look at where I am now. Like I can.
You're in a forest, bro.
Yeah, I'm in a
Look
forest.
at you.
I'm in the woods.
You packed the car, you went camping.
Yeah, exactly. I'm totally camping. I'm out there
nature.
somewhere.
Oh man, guys, when this is all
no,
over, we're gonna party so
Dude, we're gonna party so hard.
Over.
Yes, Hector. Yes, we are.
All these April babies, like me and Lucas, we already put it together. We're gonna throw the biggest barbecue you've ever seen.
Oh yeah, March baby.
There you see. Okay. You're invited.
March 16th, the day that the
oh
order
wow
went down here in Los Angeles County. So
so you're invited. You will be one of the attendees of honor, as well.
I mean,
Lucas and
like
myself.
the NBA, we get to postpone our birthdays to a later date.
His birthday didn't count. I didn't turn 36 this year. I'm turning 36 next year.
I'm with you too, bro.
Bullshit.
I'm still 22. So.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Mine's in June, but I'm still not that optimistic that we'll actually be able. We'll have to do one of these. It'll be a Zoom party, I'm sure, in some way, shape, or form. Did you guys get a chance to see kind of like the 3-phase rollout where we've become the Marvel Cinematic Universe in some way, where it's going to be just like. Well, so they announced yesterday that we're going to be doing like a 3-phase rollout where in different phases, depending on sort of like what state your state or your county is in, that's going to sort of dictate like how much less social distancing you'll have to do. It's
okay,
been
so we're
very interesting.
all in Los Angeles. We're in California.
Yeah.
What phase are we in? We in phase 1, phase 2?
No, hell no, hell no.
We're in phase 3.
Who knows, man?
I don't,
Yeah, we're still in lockdown.
I've not read all of it, but I don't think anybody's in any phase.
Well,
Yeah,
unless you're
no.
Florida and you're just Amity Island.
Well,
No,
yeah,
they're done.
yeah.
Didn't you hear? They're done. That's why they're reopening.
Yeah.
So they've conquered it.
It's been really, really interesting.
Yeah.
What's been some of the what have you guys been doing during the stay-at-home order minus working? What have you been trying to do to help pass the time?
I know that I've continued to do the stuff that the three of us talked about. We reunited last week. We shot a video, Adam, Augustine, and I, where we were like, here's some quarantine essential stuff to go look at, movies and comics and different things.
Amazing.
So I'm still in the process of I'm reading comics. I'm trying to do my deep dive into everything Indiana Jones right now. So I'm getting into that stuff. I'm reading the old Edgar Rice Burroughs, John Carter of Mars books. They're great and terrible, and I love them, and they're great.
Yep.
And that's and then I've been slowly but surely collecting my my action figure collection from the internet, from sellers and from eBay and stuff. I'm trying to avoid Amazon because they're essential services and swamp. But I'm trying to be like, ooh, it's been years. I never got around to getting these action figures. I need to get.
Hector, that's
Batgirl
essential
and
services,
Supergirl.
man. I just got
It's-
this. I just got this Paddington Blu-ray. That's apparently essential services too. So,
Well, it's like, look, we're joking, but it's kind of how we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
Is that everybody everyone's always sort of joked about the arts as being non-essential, but as soon as everything went down,
Right.
everybody has been talking
Mhm.
about the comfort food of watching movies and reading and enjoying art. So
Yeah.
I mean, we can joke that it's not essential, but
Right. But
yeah.
to add on to that, Hector, just like we talked about last week, I rewatched Lord of the Rings, specifically
Oh.
The Return of the King.
Wow.
And given all these new things that have popped up in our lives, that story of going the smallest person going up against the biggest odds hits completely different right now. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh man, my emotions are in a completely different place when I'm watching this movie. And it's actually great because it's like rewatching it over again. It's like rewatching it new. And I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
man, this is beautiful. There's stuff in it that I've never seen before that's always been there. So it's things like that, rewatching things that I love from a completely different emotional state. And
Yeah,
it's really cool.
That quote from Gandalf really hits different now, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
one, and I'm
Wait,
going to
which one?
bungle this right now.
Which
but
one?
Gandalf would say this in a very wise, poetic way, but it's like, if you're the guy in the time, you don't get to choose the time that you get to be the guy in.
Right.
You gotta vibe it out.
Yeah.
Frodo, whoever I'm talking to.
And Frodo's like, totally, bro.
Fucking all the
I feel you.
time.
Oh hell yeah, dude.
You know the quote I'm talking about. It's on all
Right,
sorts of
right.
tchotchkes that you've seen
Yes,
in memes
yes,
and everything, but it's like
Mhm.
you don't get to choose the time that you are in. Your choice is whether you can rise up to the challenge of the time that you're in.
Right.
Look, Sam.
Exactly.
Everybody in the chat
yeah.
room is saying they like your version of the quote better anyway.
Yeah,
So
I
you
like-
won. You
Cool.
won.
Put it
They're
on a
gonna
mug.
rewrite it,
That's right.
edit it into the movie.
He's
Put
a
out a
writer.
new version.
What about for you,
That
Sam? Has there
J.R.R.
been?
Tolkien?
Yeah, whoever that guy is.
What about for you, Sam? Has there been new things that you've discovered, whether it's books, movies, or even some comics, or how have you been helping pass the time?
Yeah, well, I've really been trying to stay busy, and I always go back to comics. So I have been reading old favorites. I gotta say, old favorites are recent things that have popped up. This is actually, I happen to have this on hand right here, but the Wildstorm book
Ooh.
published by DC, but it's a relaunch of the Wildstorm properties by Warren Ellis and John Davis Hunt. All 4 volumes are out now, and I'm a huge Wildstorm nerd, huge Warren Ellis fan, love John
Wow.
Davis Hunt, so I got to read all those at once. But then also, I just am cooking a lot more than I ever have
Yeah.
in my entire life, which is I'm not fancy or anything by any means, but I'm learning that if I just take a bunch of garlic and mash it up, put it in a pan with some oil and throw some soy sauce in there, maybe some sriracha, heat that up, I can literally put anything in after that, and it's
And
Pizza chef. See, Hector, it's not
You're
that hard.
wrong.
Come on, man.
You're not wrong. No, not at all.
Sam, You're talking to the two correct guys. These guys are awesome cooks, and I am so bad. So that's
Yeah,
great.
Hector, but you're
I'm
lucky
much closer
you
to
have
Hector than any awesome chef. I have no.
Hector, you're lucky you lucked out that you have Keller as your roommate, who is one of the best.
Oh yeah, Hector.
ever.
What are you talking
No,
about?
You son of a bitch.
Yeah,
You
Keller's
got a
great.
5-star Michelin chef as your roommate.
Exactly.
It's pretty good. Just give me the thumbs up right now.
Oh yeah, dude.
But
That's
Sam,
awesome.
let's get into creators for comics, because I would love
Yeah,
for you
man.
to give our audience a little more insight of how it started, what inspired it, and how it's sort of been evolving the last week or so.
Yeah. This has been like such an exciting week, and just talking about like distracting yourself or finding things to do that like are therapeutic as well. Like this has been so therapeutic. So the broad strokes of what it is, it's called Creators for Comics. It's a hashtag on Twitter, so it's creators the number 4 in comics. And what it is it's a bunch of comic book creators and authors and celebs and just supporters. It's such a big tent now. People who are going on their Twitter accounts and auctioning things on their Twitter accounts. Everything from signed books to unique experiences to Zoom chats for people who are aspiring creators, all sorts of stuff. And all the proceeds are going directly to support comic book stores and indie booksellers who are all of them, I think, without exception, are having an incredibly difficult time across the board because of Corona and the state closures. And in the case of comic books, the distributor has not been shipping new comic books for weeks. There has not been a new comic book Wednesday for weeks. So even the stores who can stay open due to local regulations, there is no new product. In these stores, I'm sure all y'all will agree, these stores are the just like the bedrock of this industry. You know, like we're not talking about saving businesses. We're talking about saving our community. We're talking about saving the people that we have known and loved. And the thing I keep saying to people is that the stores have supported us for years. Now it's our turn to step up and support them. So really the way this came about is just out of that feeling that I think we've all felt at one time or another the past couple of weeks about anything, really just sitting back and feeling helpless and scared and sick and sad about what was happening with the retailers. And I was talking about it with Cami Garcia and Gwenda Bond, both of whom they one up me because they're awesome comic book writers and awesome novelists. And we collectively just each brought a different piece together, this plan of how we could try and make this work. And then we roped in Brian Michael Bendis and Phil Jimenez, both incredible comic book legends and great friends, and also people who are, just leaders in the community and who want to do the right thing. So we really, worked our asses off. We found a partner in BINC, which is the Book Industry Charitable Network, and they've been saving indie stores and comic book stores for over 20 years.
Wow.
And they are collecting all the money. They're doing all the disbursement, handling all the stuff like taxes and math, stuff that we don't want to do. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, fuck math. Fuck math.
Exactly. Screw homework. Yeah. What's great about this partnership is they get to do what they do best, and we get to do what we do best, which is just rabble rouse. So
yeah,
we when we launched on Wednesday, we had I think about 120 creators lined up.
Wow.
And we were feeling really good and just really overwhelmed with that number, just overwhelmed emotionally the way that people are stepping up. And the way that it has bloomed since then. We're about 2 days later. We have a team chasing down every auction. So many people have just seen what we're doing, and they have decided they're going to step up and do an auction too. What's great about this format is that anybody can join. You don't have to contact us, or there's no invitation. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's part of the party if you just want to step up and support these stores. So now at this point today, on Friday, the last update I got is we're up to over 400 auctions.
That's amazing.
Running on Twitter.
Yeah, so I mean, like when I first caught wind of it, I was telling these guys, I I kind of saw like early breadcrumbs on my Twitter feed because, I follow, so I saw some stuff being retweeted, and I didn't really know at first what exactly it was. But you like follow the trail and you go back and you start seeing very quickly how much this has like blown up. in the
Yeah.
last 48 to 72 hours, which I think is incredible. I saw I think I saw Chris Miller just did one. Was that
Did.
yesterday or this morning from Spider-Verse that I thought was
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Miller, a great example of somebody who, you when you think of the comic book industry, you may not automatically think about him,
Mhm.
but
Right.
he's just a nerd. And I haven't spoken to him, but I assume because he stepped up in this way and did it on his own, that he also feels scared and worried about what's happening in these stores, and just couldn't sit by and watch this happen. He said, I have to do something too.
Yeah.
And that's like been the really emotional part of this week, is seeing our
Yeah.
peers and people we don't know, people that we've always admired but from afar. Like Mike Mignola just posted
Yeah.
an auction with a collaboration he did with Eric Powell. They did a Where the Wild Things Are piece together.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's so cool.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
and it's just like, man, like Mike Mignola heard about it and said, I gotta do something.
That's
Like
so cool.
it's just amazing. Or just reaching out to people like Frank Miller and Neil Gaiman, both of whom are doing auctions. And then seeing the
Wow.
flip side of that, which is seeing people on Twitter being like, I've looked at this hashtag, this is so cool and this is so crazy. I don't know what I can do. I'm just, maybe an aspiring creator. I've never been published, or maybe I'm just a fan. But I'm gonna find anything I have in my home, and I'm gonna put up an auction. Even if I contribute just a little bit, like I have to be part of this. I have to do something to help save these stores.
It's been amazing. It's been like, Sam, you reached out to me and asked me to on behalf of a legendary creator, Paul Levitz. I'm
Yes.
auctioning
Yes,
one of
man.
his items of an incredible masterpiece book that he wrote, which it's currently. And here's the other thing I want to bring up too. Like, the crazy thing is all of these are still happening right now. The auctions are live right now until
Yeah.
Monday
Yes,
midday.
anyone can go. Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone can go to the hashtag Creators for Comics. Just scroll through. It's like the craziest artist alley you've ever seen in your life. It's amazing.
That's cool.
I am currently, on behalf of Paul Levitz, auctioning a book that he wrote called 75 Years of DC Comics, The Art of Modern Myth Making. And you can go to my Twitter and you can see a bunch of people like that have, bid on the item. Right now it's up to $350, which is insane. It's so cool, but it's this huge, massive book that is almost as big as the man himself, and it's out of print. It's called like the XL edition of this book that Taschen did years ago. Anyway, it's pretty awesome. But just to see like to see how everybody is even if they aren't creators, but they're still just comic book lovers and fans, all of the people that are bidding. That's what's been blowing me away, is all the people that are bidding these amounts. And some of our favorite creators like are saying, hey, I just decided I'm going to match this amount, whatever ends up winning. And it's just like this incredible outpouring of support. And like Robert Kirkman just bid on a piece, $10,000, and he goes, I'm going to bid $10,000 because it's like a Jeff Lemire piece, and he's only bidding that because the original bidder said, I'm going to match whatever the amount is. And then Robert said,
it gets even better, because Lemire posted his piece.
Yeah.
And I guess he talks to Damon Lindelof. And Lindelof said, dude, I will match whatever your highest bid is.
Whoa!
And Jeff posted that, and
That's
Robert
so
Kirkman
dope.
was like, well, if
10K.
Lindelof's going to do this, then I'm bidding 10 grand. I'm going to make Lindelof pay up.
That's
And-
so dope.
and yeah, Robert goes, I'm gonna bid $10,000, and whoever the second highest bid is, they can get the item, they can get the artwork, and it's
So
just the support. It's just awesome.
Wow.
And that's 20 grand right there. That is life and death for more than one store.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
an incredible thing. Just one
I love it.
auction. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know right now
So
it's
cool.
it's still like very unclear when we can sort of start to expect comics to kind of go back into print. I know that Diamond was I don't know if Diamond said this, but I know that the Hollywood Reporter was talking about that they're hoping to restart shipments sometime mid to late May, but like
That is correct.
that's still a while away, and that's also
Right.
like a very vague timeline.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
mid to late May, that could be anywhere in a 2 to 3 week window, and we could get to mid to late May, and they might be like, oh, never mind, actually, like we're still not in the clear. So I think this is probably the best, and I don't know if easiest is the word, but probably the most accessible thing that is happening right now that people can support. There was a question in the Twitch chat asking if this is only in U.S. or if anyone internationally can participate.
The scope is up to each person who is auctioning. It's up to each auction how they want to define the scope. I know a lot of them are U.S. based, but there are plenty that are international as well.
Cool. So it depends on the item, depends on the. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Case
That's
by
great.
case basis.
And then
Right
what's
on.
what's the timeline? You saying it's still mid Monday?
Yes, noon Eastern time, mid Monday is when the auctions close down. It's super easy to bid. All you do is you reply to the original tweet with your bid. You just put the number right in there, post it as a reply, and then you're in there. And then come noon Eastern time on Monday, whoever has the highest bid in the thread is the one who's the winner.
Yeah.
And the money, like it's not just going to a good cause, but whoever wins these auctions, they're not taking their money and paying me or Jeff Lemire or Mike McNeil or whoever. They're paying the money direct to Bink, direct to the nonprofit, sending us the proof, and then they get their goods.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
man.
I've been really missing comics. So here on Wednesday we do a show called Comics and Coffee where Zach and I we read some of the new stuff and then we talk about it. And like we've really been
Zach.
missing the show a lot because it's
Well,
a nice
good
opportunity for
news.
people to just like, you know, hang out and just read and stuff, but it's like that's part of an industry that I think is so underappreciated. And I think now people are really realizing like shit, I really miss having books to read every week.
Yeah. New books. Yeah. What were you gonna say, Sam?
Well, I was just gonna say that in addition to Diamond saying that they're hoping to start up mid to late May, DC said today, and this is not insider news. This is all public.
This is public,
they said it
yeah.
Online, that they are going to start shipping weekly books. I believe the last Tuesday of April is the first.
I think it's April
the first
28th.
day
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're engaging with alternative distribution. I don't know exactly the details of that, and of course, not all stores are going to be opening, but the stores that are open or the stores that can service customers curbside, mail order, whatever, new comics from DC will start shipping weekly end of April, and I am personally excited and relieved. Just an example of how we've all been in limbo because of this. I have an issue of Harley Quinn that I wrote, Sammy Basri drew. It's been printed, it's been shipped, and it's sitting in a warehouse.
Yeah.
It's supposed to come out April 1st.
Yeah.
But it's just been sitting. I have a box of it. I have a box of it over here. But I wouldn't want to do that to the retailers and like give it away as part of an auction. But you know, it's like it's great just to know, just to feel like the wheels are starting to move slowly. Right? We're figuring out. We're all figuring out ways to do this while still being safe, healthy, and home as much as possible.
Right.
Have you still been actively working on books that you already were working on previously, or has that kind of been paused because of everything that's been going on?
I'm very lucky in that none of my projects have been put on pause. That's not the case for everybody. I think almost every publisher has had some projects go on pause. Some entire publishers have gone on pause. I'm writing Harley for DC, and my experience with DC is they said we're business as usual on this end. Almost nothing about this business is as usual right now. But what we can do right now is still continue making these books, because when we come out of this, people are going to need these books. The retailers are going to need something to sell. People are going to need something to read. We're just going to need something to feel okay about again, So DC really has been consistent from the start that we're moving forward. None of my deadlines changed whatsoever. I'm on the same deadline schedule as if there was no break in shipping at all. And also it's I'm not speaking for DC. It's just something I thought about the other day. This is crazy because we ship comics as an industry on a weekly basis. This is an opportunity for the entire company to be ahead of schedule at one time. You're a comic book freelancer right now. This is blowing your mind because we are constantly at the the nitty gritty of every deadline, rushing things off to the printer. I have an entire line of comics. To have one comic ahead of schedule is mind blowing to me. I have an entire line is amazing. It's crazy.
I have a question for you, Sam. So how do you feel like this event, this thing that's going on right now, this coronavirus, will or has affected your writing? Like, do you feel like this is something that is going to be reflected in comic books as a whole? Do you feel like we'll start to see some like very personal stories in comics about events like this or something like that?
It's a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. I mean, I'll speak for a lot of my peers who I've talked to.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other people may be feeling this right now. My writing has sucked since all this has gone down. I eventually get there, but my
Yeah, yeah,
process
yeah.
sucks. It
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
does. Like it's just not
Right.
coming the way it used to.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
I think that is absolutely natural. So if there's anybody
Yeah.
else feeling like that, because I've been talking to some of my peers, big names, who are just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm like, dude,
Mhm.
you're not the only one. You know,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
say it
yeah.
to everybody watching right now. Anybody
Okay.
working at anything, creative or otherwise, we're not working at 100% right now. That's
Mhm,
totally
mhm.
natural. So it has affected my writing in that way. Your broader point, I think this is something that we always think about when something big hits. You know, like
Mhm, mhm.
9/11, there was a lot of talk about this. How will this change art? There's been a
Right,
lot of
right,
articles
right.
about, oh, the plague of the 1348 or whatever, how
Yeah.
that changed painting, you know, in
Right,
Europe or
right,
whatever.
right.
Like, uh,
Yeah.
myself personally, so far, I have decided to reflect the emotions that I'm feeling right now without being like, you know, Harley fighting Master COVID. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Yeah,
You know,
without too nail on the head. It's you're just
yeah,
not trying to. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
And
I get it.
because a lot of that stuff, and also just like obviously this stuff is moving so fast.
Right, right.
It feels like maybe things are like peaking or coming to a crest, but we just don't know. We don't know what's going to happen next. You don't want to write something last week and have it come out in June and things are much worse than we thought they were going to be. And then
Right, right,
you're,
right.
at best, you're being insensitive. At worst, something more horrible.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, the first script I wrote, I'll tell you, was Harley Quinn 75.
Mhm.
Which was this was set up because it's an anniversary issue. Those are always big and fun. It's exercise, and we've got 8 artists on this issue. It's a jam issue, and the plan did change for me after all this went down.
Mm.
And I don't want to spoil too much, but instead of being about I'm Harley Quinn, I'm trapped in because of the virus or whatever, I can't leave the house because of the virus, it became more about Harley trying to overcome the negative voices that we all have inside of ourselves.
Okay.
And I think
Okay.
that's something that we've all been trying to wrestle with as we're isolated, even if we have other people in our, you know, in our quarantines. Like we're all wrestling with these doubts and overthinking and anxieties and depressions and all that kind of stuff. So at least for this one issue, that is how I've tried to address it.
I got to chime in too, because if there's anybody watching right now who has not read any of Sam's Harley Quinn stuff, I am such a champion for it because, and I've told this to Sam, because it is so goddamn funny. It's the classic Harley that you know and love and expect from a Harley Quinn comic book. And yet, Sam taps into some of the most real emotions. There are some heartbreaking, gut punching moments in his work for Harley that I think that we might not be used to experiencing with Harley. That honestly, like that's some of those moments in like the movie Birds of Prey that came out early this year. Those are some of my favorite moments. Are those moments that are surprisingly emotional with such a zany kind of cast and such a great off the wall central character. Sam is just rocking it with this Harley stuff. So if you have not read his Harley Quinn, do yourself a favor, go do it, because you will be surprised if you like those kinds of stories, and I love it. So yeah.
Thanks, pal. I really appreciate that. Appreciate you, buddy.
I think you touched on something though that is really important, and I don't think us three have really had a chance to talk about it too much, but I know a lot of people. It's like varying, right? Because people look at this opportunity, they're like, well, I'm at home, so it's a perfect opportunity for me to just sit and write and create and do all that stuff. At the same time, I feel like it's totally okay for people to feel very unmotivated, especially when we're really connected to the internet and we're watching TV all the time and we're trying to stay as up to date on everything that's happening. And not everything that we're consuming is good news. You know, sometimes the news is good, sometimes it's middle of the road, sometimes it sucks. And I think like that's a super important thing for people to remember is if you're not feeling creatively motivated today and you just want to stay in bed and watch TV and take a nap, then like don't feel ashamed to do that. I think a lot of people are putting pressure on themselves right now.
Yeah, rock
I
that
agree.
nap. Rock that bed.
Hell yeah.
Get some reality TV on.
Rock that nap.
Like honestly, that was me like not too many days ago. Like
yeah.
I think actually Friday was the day where I was feeling like pretty low and like had some like work to do and stuff. But I was just like, you know what, some of these days are just gonna be washes. They just are because this is all unprecedented. None of us are prepared for this emotionally or otherwise. So like you gotta ride out the waves, man.
You're
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
Absolutely.
We're gonna
Yeah.
talk. We're gonna jump into some topics. We don't have too many to discuss, but I think they're like very relevant to what's happening, obviously. And I would love to get your guys' like perspective or outlook on how you think things are gonna change in the future. So they
Mhm.
did just announce today that San Diego Comic-Con has been canceled, and this
Mhm.
is the first time in its 51-year history that it's ever been canceled, right? It's never really had a reason to be canceled before. And I know that the conversation around Comic-Con, at least for the last like month or so, most people were saying like, we'll be out of this, we'll be through this, it'll be fine, we'll be able to go to Comic-Con. I don't understand why people are making a big deal out of it. But now I hope at least people are realizing like there is not an off switch for this. It is a gradual progression where we will eventually get to some point where it will feel kind of normal. But I think that even when we go back to how life was before, it will still be different. It will still
Mhm.
change.
Yeah.
And especially an event like Comic Con, where San Diego gets over 200,000 new people that show up for those 4 or 5 days. I really don't know if we will go back to that. Like, I really do think that Comic Con has to really reconsider, in the immediate future at least, like that capacity that that convention holds. They will have to honor that and probably even have less people show up than
Yeah.
they've had in recent years. But I would love to know if that's what you guys think as well, and just your overall thoughts on
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
cancellation.
I've been in some meetings at the school and there's have been some pretty high level medical people in these meetings, and they talk about how things will never go back to the old normal. It will always be a new normal.
Mhm.
And one thing that I feel like is as devastating as this whole event is, what I really enjoy seeing is how people are adapting and overcoming things, just like this auction that you're
Mhm.
doing, Sam. This is a beautiful way to help people overcome this. I think what people need to start thinking about is how can we adapt, still give people something that they want and they like, because we're all looking for that comfort. We're all looking for that, like that sense of like, oh, this is what I used to love and I want to continue doing it. Maybe we can come up with a new way of delivering it to you that you didn't even know you wanted. Like there's new things, and the human creative mind is so vast that I feel like something can happen. We just need to get to that point, and nobody has ever pushed us to the point where we are now. And now's the time for people to step up and say, okay, how can we retool this rather than just canceling San Diego Comic-Con? Like, what can we
Right.
do? Let's do virtual stuff. Let's, think of new ways that people can devote their time and their efforts to, because as much as it sucks that it's not going to happen, I want to still have some kind of semblance of that, and
Mhm.
especially for like the artists who go to Artist Alley and the people who go there for exposure, and really it becomes kind of like a moment for them to either sell more comic books or get more known in the art world or something like that. It's a huge disservice to not have something like San Diego
Yeah.
Comic Con. So if we can still find out a way to get all those services across and have an event that everybody can be a part of, I think it'll be awesome. But we have to be there.
Yeah. That was really well said, man. I'll
Yeah.
be honest.
Amen.
I have not even given these kinds of questions that much thought, other than
Hmm.
the lead up to today. I think we've all been saying like it's probably not likely that Comic Con's going to happen. It's probably not likely Comic Con's going to happen. And then once it was finally announced, like, yeah, part of me's bummed. I mean, I'm born and raised in San Diego.
Yeah,
Comic
That's such a
Con's like
huge
our go-to thing.
dude. That's
yeah,
such a huge part of who I am as a geek and who I am
Yeah.
as a passionate fan of stuff, that it does break my heart a little bit. But the
hmm,
the very next thought I had was, yeah, good, this makes sense. It's the time to take these
absolutely,
kinds of measures to be safe and to keep people safe.
right.
And I really liked what Augustine was talking about trying to find solutions for this and trying to find different ways and outlets, the same way that certain publishers are trying to find different ways to get comics to people.
Hmm.
There should be groups of people right now trying to problem solve these problems of like, okay, there's no San Diego Comic Con. What does that mean for comic book companies? What does that mean
Right.
for these big studios that are trying to put out trailers and do their whole PR machine? Like,
Hmm.
do we get that in July in a different way?
Hmm.
Does Comic Con going forward, does it change? Like Adam, you were saying, maybe the because has always felt like San Diego Convention Center has never really adhered to their capacity
No.
when you go there. But it's
Right.
like, do they, how does that show evolve going forward next year, the
Right.
year after, and so on and so forth? Like, I haven't been giving these kinds of questions that much thought. And it's probably just because I really am focused on like day to day, like, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
what our jobs are, but also
Mhm.
just I don't know, whatever news we get.
Mhm.
But Augustine, I really like the kinds of ideas you were bringing up about, you know,
Yeah,
finding
man.
a way to get it to the people. You
Yeah,
got to get it to the
absolutely. We
people.
got to get it to
Need
them
it.
because yeah, everybody's looking for that semblance of
Yeah.
that comfort, you know, everybody wants that, which is good. And honestly, we all deserve that. We all deserve to feel good in this time, whatever you're doing.
Mhm.
And so it needs to, the onus is on the people who run this to be creative and try to figure out, you know, what we
Yeah.
can do about it.
Yeah, my heart breaks for everybody because this is the right decision. This
Yeah.
is the safe decision. This is the decision that is good for our entire society, right? This is to put it a different way. This is the decision Superman would make, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think they made a really tough decision, but they did the thing that they should do. But also, San Diego is a bellwether for the entire, not just convention industry, but the promotion industry that
Yeah.
stretches across different industries and
Mhm.
mediums and
Mhm.
TV, movies, video games. I have good friends who, because when San Diego falls, it's like, oh, this is going to be a whole year thing. And I have friends who are probably staring down the face of being laid off because everybody's just waiting for the shoe of San Diego to drop. I have friends who had been working on books for a year and a half that were supposed to debut there. They had things lined up, they had promotions lined up. Now none of those are going to happen, and how or if any of that is going to happen. So it is a really big shoe to drop. There have been other shows being canceled before this, but this one has cast a long shadow. But Augustine, I was really inspired by what you were saying because I want everybody to sort of open their hearts to the idea that there's a beautiful world waiting for us on the other side of this virus,
Yeah.
and that
Right.
beautiful world is something that we can create by thinking and rethinking things that we have or things that we miss or things that we used to that we can't have anymore.
Right.
And not just for conventions, but healthcare or the way we treat people who work in grocery stores or
Yes.
minimum wage, or you know what I mean, like all that kind of stuff. Like I think we need to be able to imagine, or at least embrace this idea that there is a beautiful world in the future. We just got to make it for ourselves because this is a turning point.
Absolutely.
And we all need to like roll up our sleeves and figure out what that is. But whether it's something as enjoyable as conventions or something even more serious and broad and historical than that.
I think
Yeah.
that's I think that's been probably the most interesting thing is I think it's sad that it it took for this to happen, but I think now so many people realize just how important grocery store workers and
Oh my
that
God.
whole industry of people who have to make deliveries across the country and all this like I think now people really realize like holy shit, if this were to ever go away, we
Yep.
literally wouldn't have food.
Yep.
And I think
Right.
like that's really made people realize like we really underappreciate this whole community of people, which is crazy. But I agree though. I think now it really is the time for adapting and
Yeah.
something as simple like Zach and I talk about it all the time. It's like, man, I love the concept of doing movie watch-alongs, but it's such a complicated process to be able to do it live with an audience because of the whole rights issue and not being able to show anything and hear anything and all that sort of stuff. And it's like I know a lot of people are doing them now on Twitter. It's not necessarily something that I like as much because I like the idea of everybody watching it together and like interacting in one place together.
Yeah.
But like it's such an impossibility. But I do think that now that all these studios have been coming out and they're getting their directors and their actors and their writers and their producers to do these watch-alongs with people, I think that something as little as that, all the way up to San Diego Comic-Con itself, I think we're gonna have to see some sort of like next phase of what that is.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
for years, I've always been somebody who said like I don't want Comic-Con to be live streamed because I think that like if you're spending the money and you're going out there and you're putting in the effort to go, you should be the only person who has the exclusive right to
Right.
see all that stuff. But like
Right.
it's just not the world that we live in anymore. I think the way other cons do it, in particular like Star Wars Celebration, where everything is live streamed and I don't feel the pressure of having to go, but I can still sit at home and watch it and experience it in a different way, I think is something that we should adapt and we should
Yeah.
do. And now actually having done it, going to Star Wars Celebration live in person and then going there virtually, it is a completely different experience when
Yeah,
you're in the
sure.
room versus being there virtually.
Sure.
Right.
So like
Right.
I do think it would be really cool, and especially Comic-Con and these bigger conventions. I think now is like the time you really need to start adapting. You need to start doing some sort of virtual con. And especially like, I feel like somebody like Marvel Studios or DC or whoever, I think those are the people who really need to start taking the lead on that and saying, hey, we don't want Comic-Con to go away, or we don't want this thing to go away. We want to give it to the people. And instead of us just doing it on our own, which so many movie studios could, but I think that alienates out a lot of comic book creators or a lot of smaller publishers.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
it really needs someone to speak up and say, hey, we want to do this virtually. We want to help like support it and like really get it out there so everybody who's been going to Comic-Con can still be a part of it. I do hope that that happens because I think there's an audience for it. There's literally a worldwide audience of billions of people who
Yeah.
would want to virtually go to Comic-Con
Yeah.
if they can't be there in person.
Yeah,
I mean-
especially
I
right now
mean-
because we're all at home. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And we've interacted with so many fans who are just like, man, I wish I could go. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that, whether it's like financially or whether, you can't just make it out because of work or anything. Like this is a good opportunity, like I said before, to rechange everything, give people what they want. And you're right, Sam. There's a beautiful world waiting for us on the other side.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's your guys' outlook onto, and it might be hard to answer this question specifically, but we've talked a lot about internally of like how does our industry sort of like start back up again, because we have all of these movie productions that have completely stopped, big tentpole stuff like Batman and all these sorts of things, but then you have these really small indies that have also completely have to been sidelined, and then the whole release schedule, that's a whole another topic of conversation of like the cascading effect it will have for years on so many things.
Oh man.
I think that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
very dependent on safety standards. Like as much as we want that stuff to happen,
for sure.
we can't overlook the fact that we cannot let this continue for longer than it needs to just because we want a movie or because there's a production. Like I study to be an animator. Like I love movies. I'm here with you guys. Like all of this stuff is what I love to do. But overall, at the end of the day, what matters is going and stopping as many people from getting sick as possible. And whatever we can do to mitigate that is really what's important. But if there are safety precautions, say that everybody gets tested. Like if you have a shoot day, have everybody get tested before you go and film.
Right.
Make sure that it's a very tight quarantined area. Film what you need to film. It should be good, right? Like that. Just it's if we have those testing measures, you can still do things. You just have to take further precautions. And I feel like once people start rolling out that kind of protocol, I feel
Yeah.
like we can get to a place where things can slowly start to roll out. Part of the reason why it's so widespread is because we don't have anybody who tests it. And Germany's doing a really good job of containing this because they test everybody. And instead of everybody being on lockdown, only the people who have tested positive go to lockdown. So everybody else can continue about what they want to do. So if we can have contained sets that can go out and film and create and do whatever they want to do, I feel like that's one way to kind of step this forward.
Yeah, you guys heard about the sitcom that's now going to be coming out from, I think, some of the people that did The Office, but it's like another workplace sitcom, but it's based around the Zoom work like thing, and people
Wow.
are filming it from home. And a part of me is like, that's a genius idea, Sam. That's a genius idea. However, I don't know if I'm going to be in the headspace. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Talking about
absolutely.
escapism, talking about everything that we've been talking about. So
absolutely.
it's like, it's going to be really curious to see how, not just in comics or in movies, but like books and music and all forms of art, how they'll be impacted and how we're going to get what the artists are going through, and whether or not the larger audiences will be like receptive towards that. That's what I'm really curious about. So yeah,
Yeah.
this has been a great
Yeah,
conversation, guys. This whole combo for this hour has been like uplifting and inspiring and shit.
Yeah,
I feel
man.
great.
That's
I feel
good.
great.
That's good. Right.
Sam, what do
I
you
think
think?
Augustine is right. Is that we got to let the science lead on this, and
Yeah.
not let sort of our more basic impulses lead on this. We are being called upon to sacrifice, and we'll take sacrifice to do this. But there are things happening. I know all the major studios. You mentioned animation. They're all turning to animation because that's something that can be done from home. So comics are being made. Other things are being made. You know what I mean? Like, so there is hope on the horizon for sure.
I have a question. I have a question for Sam before we have to leave because I want to geek
bro.
out with him about this real quick.
Yeah.
And it's a question for everybody here,
Yeah.
Adam and Augustine. I feel like I'm gonna know what y'all are gonna say, but
You know us. You know what we're gonna say. Ask Sam.
what's the best movie prequels between these options?
Oh God.
Here comes the
I saw your
Twitter poll. Here comes the Twitter poll.
I'm mad already. I'm mad already.
Is it? And that what the crazy thing is when it was all said and done, I thought that Star Wars was going to win. The Star Wars prequels. The options are the Star Wars prequels, the Hobbit trilogy,
Yep.
the Fantastic Beasts movies. There's 2 of them so
Right.
far, or the
Mhm.
Star Trek Kelvin alternate timeline prequel sequel, type of a thing. Between those 4, when I did this Twitter poll and it was done, 11,000 people voted, and dude, by 12 votes, 12, the Star Trek one barely edged out Star Wars. So those are my top 2 contenders.
Wow.
My vote for those would be,
Dang.
well, first of all, I consider the Trek movies to still be qualifying as prequels because they, to me,
Yeah,
in my brain, they take
100%.
place
Yep.
before some other previous movies and events. But I understand a lot of people were like, well, it's not, it's fine.
Different timeline, but it's still it's a year 1 story.
Right.
Yeah.
I go Star Trek. And then my order would then be, honestly, Hobbit, then probably Star Wars, then Fantastic Beasts. That's my order.
Yeah.
Sam.
Hector already knows his answer because I've made my outrage known on Twitter, where all my outrage is known. No, it's gotta be the Star Trek ones by a mile.
Mhm.
Now, look, I understand. I know that the Star Wars prequel love is strong out there, particularly because that's just what a lot of Star Wars fans grew up on, and I totally get that and I honor that. So I knew that was gonna be a strong contender.
Yeah.
But by 12 votes,
Yeah.
that is a travesty because those Star Wars movies are good and they are rewatchable and they have like good performances and directing and set direction and the music by Michael
Yeah.
Giacchino, and
Yeah.
it's just like, you know what I mean? Like they are those movies are a vision unto themselves, and I think I've not seen the Fantastic Beasts trilogy, but I think you could say for the other 2 sets of prequels that they are kind of a bit of a mess. And
Augustine. Now, Augustine's a huge Lord of the Rings guy.
Yeah.
Augustine's a huge Lord of the Rings guy. He met Peter Jackson in New Zealand when he took this amazing trip. Like, you went to Weta, you're friends with Richard Taylor at Weta. Like Augustine loves his stuff. Are you still going, the Trek movies are better than the Hobbit? Like, where are you at?
So as much as the Hobbit trilogy let me down, because I feel like it did do service to the book, I will put that at the top. Only because, and I feel like it only really inches out Star Wars because I didn't really watch Star Wars until after I had become a full-fledged Lord of the Rings fan. So I have this die-hard like pocket in my heart for Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
But catch
That's
me
what
on
your
another.
heart is.
Yeah,
Your
exactly.
Heart is Lord of the Rings.
My heart is Lord of the Rings, but catch me on a different day, and I might say, the Star Wars trilogy is the Star Wars prequels are better.
Yeah.
But I haven't really seen the Star Trek one, so it's not a fair answer. And Fantastic Beasts, that one's at the very bottom of my list.
See, that's
Adam.
interesting. What you said about letting you down, because the Hobbit would be number 2 for me. The Hobbit trilogy. I never read Lord of the Rings to this day, not because I'm a hater, but just the Lord of the Rings movies are my main experience with them. And I don't think they're as good as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but every time I saw those Hobbit movies, I was like, I'm loving this shit. This is great. Yeah, some dragon talking to me. Some giant bird.
I got you.
I got
you, boo boo.
Yes.
I got you.
Let's
Yeah.
do this.
No,
But
yeah,
I think it's informed by your connection, because if I had been more connected to the original material, I might have been like, oh, come on. I might have felt being let down.
Yes, exactly. And me, so as soon as the first Lord of the Rings movie came out, I went and bought the copy of The Hobbit, and I also read through the Silmarillion. Like, I was just into this world.
Yeah.
And so by the time The Hobbit came out, I knew all this stuff, and I was just like, what are we looking at? Like, what is this? Peter, how could you let me down? But then again, it's a whole nother conversation that we need to have.
I know Adam's answer. I feel like Adam's looking at us like we got to wrap soon.
Yeah,
but
Yes.
I know.
Adam also
I gotta
chimed
hear
in.
it.
Adam, he chimed in on the Twitter poll. I think he also
did.
admitted, he goes, the Trek movies are the best movies out of this set.
I would definitely say the Trek movies are the best made of all the choices. I would put the Star Wars prequels second for sure. I wish that they were higher because I love Star Wars more than Star Trek. And then The Hobbit, I personally I didn't really like that trilogy that much. And I haven't seen all Fantastic Beasts because I didn't like the first one. So I guess that answers that question.
Boom.
There you go.
Yeah,
But Sam, before we go, let everybody know
Yes.
one more time where they can find you and Creators
Yes.
for Comics.
You can find me on Twitter. My handle is @SamHumphries. But more importantly, go to the hashtag Creators4Comics, Creators4Comics. Just scroll through. You're going to find something you love, and you're going to find something that you're going to want to bid on. It's going to make you feel good. Not just because you got this cool thing, but you're going to help support comic book and indie bookstores.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us, and
Thank
for
you
coming
for
to talk
having me,
about
y'all.
it.
This
Yeah,
is a
thanks,
blast.
buddy.
This is a
Yeah.
great time.
Yeah.
I see
Glad you
why
had
Hector
fun.
loves this.
Yeah.
I get it.
Right? These guys are
Yeah.
great.
And it was so nice. It was so nice to get to hang out with Augustine and Hector. Thank you guys so much for doing this.
Yeah,
We
thanks for
will be
having us.
back next week, but before you go anywhere, we have survival skills coming up with Malika. She's going to be cooking some awesome food, so stick around for that. And then we'll be doing board games and a movie. Thank you all so much for watching. We love you. Stay.
Love you. Stay
We'll
safe.
see you in a
Stay
few minutes.
healthy.
Bye bye.